How's it going, everybody? It's C-RadTV back here with another video. So, of course, it's time for another NFL draft preview. So, of course, in the last preview, we went through all the day 2 wide receivers. In this one, we're going through all the day 2 defensive lineman prospects, since there's a lot of good ones on day 2 available in the draft. So, we're going to take a look at the long list, and we'll see how it looks. So let's go ahead, let's jump right into it. So the first player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Wake Forest, standing 6'4", weighing 240 pounds, we got Carlos Basham. So Carlos, he's your prototype run defensive end, so he's very good again in the run game and stuff in the run. Turns with strength some. He's a technically sound, high-effort edge rusher, understands the game, changes speeds to compensate for his average initial twist. He's missing that elite burst scouts prefer off the edge, but he sets up pass blockers by coordinating those powerful swipes and overarm swims with his arms with good lateral agility and core flexibility to dip, dive, and duck his way into the backfield, so he makes up for some of his limitations. He's not truly explosive off the snap, but he changes speed like an NFL vet and uses hesitation moves to force tackles to overset. He can locate the ball quickly, works to stay around it, spins his way off of contact, shows terrific effort into the flanks and downfield in pursuit. His motor also shows with his closing speed. He possesses a late burst and knockdown power, which when has any kind of runway. He's a quality tackler, can bring his hips and wrap his arms in for the efficient takedown. He has a compact, powerful frame, good overall weight distribution. Doesn't overpower opponents, but he possesses enough length and strength to set the edge, as well as the lateral agility and balance to string plays out wide. Turns his weaknesses, though, he has below average initial get-off for an edge rusher. He's considered one of the critical requirements by some for the position, so that could damage his stock. He's not explosive, but he overcompensates for his lack by twitch by pinning his ears back to affect the passer. He watches delayed handoff screen and any other misdirection plays roll right on by him, just as opposing coaches design. Has terrific effort in pursuit, but he lacks the elite speed catch up to most skill position players. He could stand to improve his grip and then rip strength and get locked up and out of the play too often. He slid inside occasionally, but too easily moved with an average anchor for his size. So for his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Emmanuel Ogbah of the Miami Dolphins. So, someone with a lot of potential for sure. A few things to clean up there, a couple things to keep an eye on, but still, he's someone to keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Houston, standing 6'6", weighing 270 pounds, we got Payne Turner. So for Payne's strengths, he's an athletic freak show for the position. Lateral agility is off the charts for a defensive end of his size. Excellent length, knows how to use it when interrupting passing lanes and getting extension against the blockers. He's twitched up and he's able to make quick adjustments with his angles. Hand usage is well developed already. Technical prowess stands out. While he isn't going to work in coverage a whole lot, but he can be used as a stand-up rusher on the edge. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he's a long-legged player, has a harder time getting leverage due to his build. Isn't a particularly powerful pass rusher for a big man. He wins more with finesse and technique than the ability to create movement. Still, technique and finesse is key. He isn't yet consistent enough with his ability to hold up at the point of attack and shed. Despite other plus athletic traits, he isn't particularly bendy around the corner, could struggle to turn back into the pocket. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's now been compared to now retired NFL defensive lineman Michael Johnson. So, definitely someone with some upside for sure. A few things to clean up, but still, someone to keep an eye on, definitely. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Washington, standing 6'5", weighing 262 pounds, we got Joe Tryon. So for Joe's strengths, he has a long, imposing frame. He looks the part of a traditional defensive end. He also has the athleticism to stand up and rush as a 3-4 out linebacker as well in a 3-4 defensive scheme. High motor player, sets good edge in the run game, won't crack when tested by double teams. He has good coordination with his feet and his hands. Allows creation of good angles, working laterally, adequate burst and bend for the pros as well. Turns his weaknesses, though, his hand usage is still in its infancy, and he lost another year of developing due to opting out this season because of the pandemic, which will make the transition to the pros more difficult. While he isn't consistent enough with his flexibility to bend around the corner, and he must become more reliable with his pass rush approach as a pro, he has a tendency to be too reckless from a technical standpoint, and has a style known as the bull in a china shop, which will be neutralized by professional blockers in the NFL. So he's got to learn to not be a bull in a china shop and just be a bull. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Robert Quinn of the Chicago Bears. So, a lot of upside for sure. He's going to have to learn to do a few things differently in the NFL, but still someone maybe keep an eye on for the long term. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Pitt, standing 6'5", weighing 264 pounds. We have Patrick Jones II. So for Patrick's strengths, he could be a star edge rusher, a snapping off the line of scrimmage, uses his quickness to overwhelm offensive linemen. He always seems to find ways in the backfield, has a nice sense of strength, length, athleticism, even if he's not the most polished or refined. Now, some may find that might come off of that as a bad thing. It can also be a courteous sign that will further coaching. He could evolve into a dominant presence. He can fit in a lot of different ways on defensive schemes. Like on a 4-3 defensive scheme, he could go as a defensive end. Or on a 3-4 defensive scheme, he could go as an outside linebacker. And I believe for Detroit's defense, I think it's supposed to be going back to a 4-3, which is what I want to see. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he does have a tendency to look tired and get taken out of games entirely. So, conditioning is going to be key with him for sure. He's certainly sneaky, doesn't have a lot of moves in his arsenal. He seems to have all you would want in size-wise, and moves fast, but for a guy in shape, he tires out fast, so he's going to have to get more conditioned, especially with how tough the NFL game is. Has to improve his play-to-play stamina to stay on the field and create an impact consistently, so consistency is going to be key, and conditioning is going to be key. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to D Ford of the San Francisco 49ers. Someone with a lot of upside for sure, but he's going to have to get in better condition to really make an impact in the NFL. And he's got to be more consistent. You're not consistent in this league, the offensive line will eat you alive. Next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Penn State, standing 6'5", weighing 252 pounds. We got Jason Owe. So for Jason's strengths, his overall strength and athleticism pops out on tape. He powers through his body, most notably on bull rushes with his hand slips. He brings a good amount of success to deplete the pocket. Has nice length and quickness. He's able to flash around a bit in short areas. Makes the tackle or close space on the QB. His bend shown on tape also illustrates proper flexibility, because suggests he will develop well at the next level in the NFL. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he seems maxed out in his frame. Not in a way that he can't gain weight, but that the more weight he adds, it may continue to restrict his movement that already seems a bit tight. He has solid short area quickness, but there is, though, a lack of ability as an open field tackler. It may make him strictly a 4-3 defensive end in a lot of defensive schemes. He is untalented, but he is unrefined as a prospect. Team that grabs him, though, they'll need to invest time and be patient. So he's a player that may take a couple years before he reaches his max potential. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Shaquille Calhoun of the New England Patriots. Someone with a lot of upside for sure, but it may take a couple seasons before he really reaches that max potential. So yeah, definitely someone maybe keep an eye on for the long run. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of UCLA, standing 6'2", weighing 278 pounds. We got Osa Odighizuwa. Yeah, that last name's a bit of a tongue twister. But anyway, for Osa's strengths, He has a sawed-off frame, well suited to winning leverage battles with his broad shoulders. Has a thick and powerful base, disproportionately long arms. He has explosive initial quickness, can penetrate gaps, knock the blockers on their heels. He surges out of his stance, takes long steps, eat up space. Coordinates his upper and lower halves nicely, shows flexibility in his hips to twist and get skinny, while he delivers powerful hand swipes, sudden swim moves to wade through traffic. His time spent in the weight room is obvious with his upper and lower body strength, so he always putting that work in. Earns a spot on Bruce Feldman's annual freak list, has a reported 717-pound squat, and a 420-pound bench press, so he can really lift those weights well in the weight room. May give T.J. Hawkinson a run for his money if y'all seen T.J. Hawkinson's workout clips. Anyway, back on topic though, he has the ballast to anchor, including against double teams when he keeps his pads low. He uses long arms, impressive grip strength, latches on and drags down ball carriers attempting to slip by. Even as he's being blocked, he's a coordinated athlete, can change direction smoothly. For a big man, and he shows impressive top-end speed and terrific effort in lateral and downfield pursuit. Not uncommon to see Osa crash through the line initially, only to reverse course and hustle downfield in pursuit, and to get in on the tackle 10-15 yards in the other direction. So he has that pursuit to tackle downfield and recover quickly. He projects his effective interior pass rusher on twist and stunts, and he's just scratching the surface of his potential. So he might be just getting started to where he could truly be. Turns his weaknesses though, he has tweener traits, lacks the length and sustained speed, wrap the corners, a traditional edge rusher, as well as the bulk preferred inside. He's a better athlete than football player, so we have the prospect as better athlete than football player cliche. Negates his own power by standing up at the snap, allows blockers to get in his chest. He lacks the ideal awareness, though, loses sight of ball with too many of his tackles happening downfield. He's got to learn to look at the ball carrier and make that play behind the line of scrimmage instead of 10-15 yards downfield. And not give up those big plays. He breaks down the door only with the cat out. Gets lured upfield. Fails to see oncoming blocks, including traps, chips, and the cuts coming his way. He spends more time on the ground than a player with his strength and agility should. His issue is worsened because by his long strides, which leads him off balance and vulnerable to well-timed shoves. He doesn't show enough awareness of passing lanes given his effort and length. In 37 career college games for UCLA, he only knocked down 4 passes. So I think despite all the strength, though, he's got to get better at jumping and trying to knock the ball down at the line of scrimmage and try and force the QB into making those bad throws. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Vinny Curry of the Philadelphia Eagles. So definitely someone that has a lot of strength and puts that work in the weight room, and someone with a lot of upside for serve. Has a few issues, but still, this is someone definitely to keep an eye on for sure, especially in the late in the 3rd round, maybe. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Pitt, standing 6'5", weighing 270 pounds, we got Rashod Weaver. So for Rashod's strengths, he possesses the length and the hand usage that a lot of teams covet. Has baseline traits which match up with NFL starter material. Has a good variety of moves in his bag, and his counters could be lethal with improved timing and control. Has a good motor, plays through the whistle with consistency. Now, he may not have the most explosive motor, but he has enough burst to threaten offensive tackles when it comes to rushing on the outside hip. Turns his weaknesses, though, he's best described as an inconsistent and can't turn angles back into the pocket after getting an angle on blockers. So he's got to be a little more consistent or a little too inconsistent. Power is average for a guy his size. He's not a dynamic ball rusher. He will be limited to when he moves more with his hands than his leg drive and natural people moving skills. So he's got to work more on technique to really make an impact. His awareness seems sufficient for run defense duties, and his stack and shed ability is unreliable. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Dietrich Wise Jr. to New England Patriots. Someone with some upside for sure, but a lot of things need to be worked out for sure. So it would be a gamble taking him for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Kansas State, standing 6'3", weighing 258 pounds, we got Wyatt Hubert. So for Wyatt's strengths, he has a compact, powerful frame with what appears to be disproportionately long arms. He helps fend off blockers. He comes off the snap low and hard, timing the snaps nicely. Flashes a legitimate explosive start to challenge the edge and the gaps. He's a nuisance rusher, incorporates several subtle but effective hand techniques, gets free efficiently with his impressive core flexibility, and his ability to dip and corner. He may appear undersized by some standards for an NFL defensive lineman, but he has shown terrific versatility playing all over. He can rush off the edge out of 2- and 3-point stances, as well as reduce inside to defensive tackle, so he has that versatility to move anywhere and play anywhere on the defensive line. Whereas advantage and quickness can be unfair to a lot of offensive linemen. He's equally quick out of either stance with the lateral agility and the spatial awareness to excel on twists and stunts. He generates a passive power through his block rush. He bursts through the reach of the blockers. He's stronger than he looks. He often wins the leverage battle due to his excellent knee bend and his long-arming blockers for effective bull rushes, as well as when he sets the edge. Relentless rusher, plays hard, tackles with a thud, generates impressive knockdown power with a history of forcing fumbles. He's not asked to drop into coverage often, but he will show the balance and ease and movement when he's doing so. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his high effort Rudy type has less than ideal physical traits when projected to the next level in the NFL. His stubby sawed-off frame with broad shoulders and hips. He too relied on guessing the snap count than providing a consistent speed rush threat. Like, honestly, trying to anticipate the count instead of just waiting for the ball to go. So yeah, that could be an issue where he could take a lot of offside penalties when he guesses it too soon. So he's got to learn not to take those stupid penalties. He leans on counters and technique, tricks opponents rather than beats them with athletic or power. He has average bulk and core strength, can recover when he loses the leverage battle. Frequently substituted and moved all over the defensive line to create advantage his matchups, so perhaps inflating his stats. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Trey Flowers of the Detroit Lions. Someone with a lot of upside and can be moved anywhere across the defensive line. A couple things to work on, but still, someone definitely to keep an eye on for sure. And the final defensive end we're going to go over here before we move on to the defensive tackles. We have hailing out of Oklahoma, standing 6'3", weighing 247 pounds. We got Ronnie Perkins. So for Ronnie's strengths, though, even though he's listed at 247 pounds, he certainly looks bigger and he should weigh more, though. So, yeah, looks can be a little deceiving. So, yeah, we have the don't judge a book by its cover cliche. In terms of his play, though, he had plenty of no-table plays, solid sack production, impressive overall strength of the line. For a defensive end, he offers a nice anchor, moves lateral well, adjusts for the run. When he's patient, he shows incredible play, both as a pass rusher and a run stopper, so he can rush the passer and he can stuff the run, too. There will be questions surrounding him, but there's a lot to be said about the level of improvement in the Sooners' defense when he returned. Terence's weaknesses, though, even though his game is solid, there's still plenty of room left to grow. Hey, there's always room for improvement at the end of the day. He needs to be more disciplined when he handles the run. Too often crashes on the running back, opens up the outside, especially on option plays. Needs to improve hand usage. He tends to win on pure strength and solid speed, so he may need to work on technique a bit. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Mario Addison of the Buffalo Bills, so someone with a lot of upside for sure. Gonna have to work on technique and a couple things for sure, but still, someone definitely to keep an eye on. So now moving on to defensive tackles. The first one we're going to go over here. Hailing out of Florida State, standing 6'4", weighing 305 pounds, we have Marvin Wilson. So for Marvin's strengths, he's broad-shouldered, barrel-chested. He's built like a boulder, about as difficult to move. For a large man, he fires off the snap, bulldozes through opponents, but also leg drive. He uses cinder block hands, breaks the grip of the blockers. His game's based on raw power. He can bull rush with the best of them. But he's also probably agile, shows the flexibility and balance, can get skinny, split gaps, possess an exciting burst to close in on the ball carriers. Disruptive and intimidating force. Frequently draws double and even triple team blocks from opponents. Shows impressive leverage to draw a stalemate. Creates a pile to jam up the runners. He showed vastly improved recognition of passing lanes as a junior. Knocked down in 9 games in 2020. He knocked down 4 passes, and he blocked 3 kicks in his limited 2020 season. He's a 2-time team captain, which forced real conversations during the Black Lives Matter movement during the off-season back in the summer. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he's more a disruptor than a finisher. He's a quick rattle shuffle, but he does have some core stiffness. He needs a bit of runway to change direction with his elusive ball carriers occasionally. Able to slip him in close quarters. It's a stubby frame, little extra around the middle. Bit of consistent with his pad level, so consistency is going to be key. And they do rise as he tires. He has a troubling lack of durability. He had to undergo at least 3 surgeries during his time in Florida State. In the past 2 seasons, he missed a combined 7 games, so that's going to raise a red flag. Can he stay healthy in the long run for sure? For his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Fletcher Cox of the Philadelphia Eagles. So yeah, definitely a player with a lot of upside for sure, but his health is going to be crucial. For him to make an impact, he's going to have to stay healthy in the long run. Definitely a gamble taken at him for sure. Next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of BYU, standing 6'3", weighing 340 pounds, we have Kairis Tonga. So for Kairis, he's your prototype intangibles, defensive tackle, so he's very good with those intangibles. In terms of his strengths, he's built like a boulder, almost as difficult to move, terrific initial quickness for such a large man, immediately attacks centers with a powerful bull rush, which leaves all the blockers on ice skates. He feels double teams coming and grows roots. He anchors his legs and creates a lull. Much more athletic than his portly frame suggests. He shows impressive lateral agility and the straight line speed to play the key. Can pursue down the line of scrimmage. He shows good time and explosiveness as a leaper. In a game against Utah in 2018, he blocked a field goal if you want to watch some tape up. And he broke up multiple passes each year of his career. In his career at BYU, he broke up a total of 12 passes, which is a rarity for a nose guard. His initial quickness and power, it makes him an intriguing candidate for extra duties, including as a refrigerator-like lead blocker in the red zone, or even as a ball carrier. So he could potentially go offense if you want to be creative and full a little trickery. He also spent some time on the offensive line and at tight end too. So yeah, there's that. So he has that versatility to even play offense for like any trick plays. In terms of his weaknesses though, while he is much more athletic than he looks, he is so broad. He does have difficulty squeezing through gaps forced there to be a bit of a lane for him to affect the QB. Less simply bull rushing through the center. As such, though, he offers little as a pass rusher, though his penchant for knocking down passes at the line of scrimmage is a healthy consolation prize. So he's more of a run stuffer than a pass rusher. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to now free agent defensive tackle and former Detroit Lions defensive tackle Danny Shelton. And, he was also one of the undisputed stars on BYU's defense. But for BYU, he was sadly overshadowed by Zach Wilson, of course. And all the attention's, of course, on Zach Wilson from BYU in this draft. Definitely someone with a lot of upside for sure. And also, so yeah, definitely someone to keep an eye on for sure. And also, I forgot to mention with Marvin Wilson that he is a player that could disappoint in the NFL. So yeah, that was Marvin's health concerns also make him a boom or bust player for sure. But yeah, in terms of Kairis Tonga, definitely someone to keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we'll go over here. This is a player that actually a lot of people have the Lions mocked to taking in the second round, so we'll go over him for sure. We have hailing out of Washington, standing 6'2", weighing 293 pounds. We have Levy Onwuzurike. So for Levy, he's your prototype tackling defensive tackle, so he can always make those tackles in big plays. In terms of his strengths, he's stylish with his moveset. He's able to win in a variety of ways as a pass rusher. He's tough to handle in one-on-one situations. He does have surprising power for his size. He can get home on bull rushes. Has a good variety of moves. Knows how to counter effectively if his initial rush fails. His motor jumps out. Has the athleticism and hustle to run down plays from out of the position. He's also nimble, explosive, and dynamic. Turns his weaknesses, though, he's a bit of a linear player, lacks ideal lateral agility, which will limit his options as a pass rusher. He struggles to maintain leverage in the run game, has issues rising after contact, which will make him a potential liability at the point of attack. He struggles to anchor down in a spot and hold his gap, but his lack of versatility will make him less valuable to a team that employs a 3-4 scheme. So he may not fit well in a 3-4 scheme, but at all I know, I believe the Lions are going to a 4-3. So he's a lot better in a 4-3 scheme than a 3-4 scheme. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Jerry Tillery of the Los Angeles Chargers. So definitely someone with a lot of upside for sure. A couple things to clean up for sure. But still, someone definitely to keep an eye on. I can see why some people have him mocked in the second round to the Lions. Maybe if he falls down, that would also be better too. So yeah, definitely someone to keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of LSU, standing 6'2", weighing 346 pounds. We got Tyler Shelvin. So for Tyler's strengths, he's a mammoth individual, can anchor down, hold his ground against anyone. He's the type of double team eater that a lot of teams will fawn over. He's surprisingly athletic for a big man, and his effort, even when he is unlikely to make a play, he does stand out. He does a good job of staying active with his hands, fights back blockers, but in his effort will allow him to shed blocks. His bull rushing is adequate for a nose tackle. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he faces mainly the same issues that many huge nose tackles will always face. Doesn't create many opportunities as a pass rusher, regardless of how much effort he gives. Technique's just average. He must continue to improve his hand fighting as a pro, so he definitely got some work to do with his hand technique. So yeah, there's always room for improvement there. Doesn't deliver much versatility. He shouldn't be expected to work anywhere other than as a 0 or 1 tech defensive tackle in the NFL. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's also been compared to former Detroit Lions defensive tackle and free agent defensive tackle Danny Shelton. So definitely more like a run stuffer than a pass rusher, but still, definitely someone with a lot of upside for sure. A couple things to work on in terms of technique, but still someone to keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we'll go over here, hailing out at North Carolina State, we have standing 6'2", weighing 320 pounds, we got Alem McNeil. So for Alem's strengths, he's a versatile athlete. He can move around the formation a bit. His athleticism stands out from the crowded defensive tackle. He works well when he moves laterally, and his natural athleticism allows him to work stunts effectively. Has sufficient leverage, can anchor well against the run, should be able to hold his own against NFL interior linemen. He fights through traffic, tracks the ball effectively as well. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his pass rushing is dependent on his athleticism, leads to major technical lapses and stalemates. He's got to become more disciplined with his hand usage, both when creating as a pass rusher and tries to shed blocks in run game. So he's got to learn to keep his hands low and not put them in the face so he doesn't take stupid fucking penalties. And he's got to shed those blocks better in run game so he can stuff the run and make that play behind the line. He's not as disruptive from snap to snap as his tools may indicate he should be. But he also has issues when he tries to finish ball carriers. He struggles to close the distance, lands cleanly as a tackler, so he's got to learn to, improve better. Always room for improvement. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Sheldon Rankins of the New Orleans Saints. Someone with a lot of upside for sure. Definitely got a few things on technique to work on for sure, and there's a little room for improvement. maybe someone to keep an eye on in the long run for sure. And the final defensive tackle, the final defensive lineman, the final player we're going to go over in this video. Hailing out of Ohio State, standing 6'3", weighing 300 pounds, we got Tommy Togiai. So for Tommy, he's your prototype strength defensive tackle. So he's very strong and can always hold his own well. Turns with strength, he's built like a fire hydrant, just as tough to move, offers immediate help as traditional run plugger, so he always does well in the run game and can stuff that run. Anchors well, leans in the defenders, and sprawls his thick but short legs. Uses natural leverage advantage to great effort. Of course, what will generate the most buzz is, of course, some Tommy's strength, which is very obvious with his ability to bench press opponents, easily shucks them aside once he locates the ball. Beside his girth and strength, he flashes his explosive initial burst off the snap. It can help him blow up plays with an early penetration. He's even more intriguing with his straight line speed. Shows impressive hustle to sideline and downfield. He surprises opponents with steady acceleration, providing an intimidating presence. Turns his weaknesses, though, he's like most stumpy defenders with his frame and his strength. Pretty stiff in the midsection, struggles to quickly change direction. He's quite raw from a fundamental standpoint, stands up too often, exposes his chest, gets lured upfield on traps, and struggles to twist away effectively or efficiently. Get back into the play when he's initially blocked. In 2020, he had 3 sacks in 2020, and that was also his sack total his entire career. And that came in one game against an overmatched offensive line from Penn State. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Larry Ogunjobi of the Cleveland Browns. So, someone with a lot of upside for sure. Sat behind some other top Ohio State NFL draft picks on a defensive line before he got his shot. A lot of upside for sure. Definitely has got to work on some technique for sure. But yeah, still, someone definitely to keep an eye on for sure. But yeah, anyway, that's going to wrap it up here for this Detroit Lions NFL draft preview. There's a lot of defensive linemen and some pass rushers and run stuffers for sure in the second and third round. We're definitely going to get one in the day 2 for sure, if not day 1. Definitely day 2 for sure. Definitely some names to keep an eye on for sure. But yeah, anyway, of course, next up, we're going to continue the defense and go to the next side with the linebackers in the next draft preview. Since, defense is going to be since there's a lot of holes on defense for the Lions. So yeah, anyway, that's going to wrap it up here. Anyway, hail to Outsiders and hail to great Detroit Masterplan. That's all I got to say. Peace.